Well, hello Grandmasters, Mike from the WCA. How are you birds doing? Been a really great session. I hope you're enjoying yourselves. Bruce and I don't know what to look at first. All the work you've been turning in, we're seeing a ton of progress. Really happy. We actually ran our 2 o'clock group, the full 90 minutes, no lecture this week, and we do that randomly sometimes. Couldn't be happier with you guys, no kidding. Anyway, I want to do a 2-part video with you. The first part is just an introduction to some defenses to the fried liver attack that we talk about all the time. If you don't know what the fried liver attack is, it's when white develops their pieces in the Italian game, as you'll see, but they come after this pawn here on f7. Very common. You'll see it in a moment as we get through it, okay? Other words should start being familiar to you, like the center fork trick, 4 knights game, 4-move checkmate when you started out, you know? So as you improve, all these different words and terms should be expanding in your chess vocabulary. Okay, let's go to work. So on Sunday, we looked at these basic moves, which you guys see all the time, and from bishop c4, white is telling black that they're willing to play a structure that's known as the Italian game. It can turn into different openings from here. Don't get hung up on it too much. Just keep in mind that when the bishop is on c4, you can always have a problem tactically here. Hopefully you can see my mouse pointer. So most of you, to avoid the fried liver attack, or this knight g5 idea, you guys put your bishop here on c5, which is perfectly fine. It's a great way to play this opening. But we started to look at an early knight f6, which is known as the 2 knights defense. And there's a couple of reasons why this is pretty cool with black, especially if you're a scholastic player. The good news is a lot of your opponents in this structure will just whip out the move knight c3 without thinking. And I don't know if you caught this or not, but if white plays this way, they've actually played now a 4 knights opening. You see the 4 knights with the bishop on c4. So that allows black to play our famous center fork trick. You see, it didn't start as a 4 knights, but it kind of turned into one because white did not play the correct move order. So the center fork trick, you simply play d5, and you're going to get one of the pieces back. So one quick line I want to show you is a game that I saw recently was white played bishop to d3. So we get our piece back, white gets their pawn back, and these positions are kind of cool because say after bishop d6, which was played in the game, white has the disadvantage of not having a pawn in the middle of the board. So you see this black pawn here, this is really annoying. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. That knight's going to be so mad at me. But this pawn is so annoying because it's taking away central squares, and it makes it a little difficult for white to play d4. And if white doesn't play d4 comfortably, that means they're going to be playing with less space for most of the game. I hope you guys understand that. So in the particular game, white just castles, black castles, and then some players like to go for this idea. They trade the bishop for the knight, thinking that they're messing up black structure. They are, but there's a downside to that. The downside to that is the fact that black has these 2 bishops here, and in certain positions, these bishops can really spring to life. So let me show you what I mean exactly. So in the game, white played d3, and here's a move you're actually going to see in part 2 of our video that is played, but it has to be played with caution, but it is an excellent tool to have in your chess toolbox. Ready? f5. Really cool move. It creates a pawn duo, and I'm going to start showing you some highlights. Some of them are really crazy. Watch this. All right, this one is not too bad. The 4 green boxes in the middle kind of reminds me of those ponds, you know, where the frogs hang out, and all of a sudden part of the water turns green. I'm not sure I want to swim there. Anyway, so these 4 squares are controlled by these 2 pawns. So much of white's territory is already in black's hands. The downside, you have to be very careful. I hope you know why I put this arrow here. That's to show that you opened up a window to your king. But in this position, there's not too much to worry about because only the queen can use this diagonal, and Big Mama's not getting there anytime soon. And white traded off their light squared bishop to mess up these pawns here. So while I did weaken my diagonal, in return for that, I have an awesome center and the potential for some super, super powerful bishops. So let me show you another highlight. Oh my goodness. There's like green slime everywhere. It's like the frogs have run wild. Look at those arrows. Anyway, let's try to figure out what they all mean if you can. Hopefully none of you have run away. The rook, see the rook on A8? Can it slide over and use that arrow? Use the file? Yes. You see how this bishop has two possibilities coming out to A3 at some point, or A6 rather. You know, if white ever tries to break the game open, that's going to open up this long diagonal, and there's nobody on the white side that can fight this light squared bishop. And obviously it can come out the other way if needed. See this dark squared bishop? It's pointing at the white king. I mean, I know there's a couple of things in the way, but you know, in chess, things move. So if this pawn ever moves, this bishop's going to be attacking the king with check. The queen has this maneuver. Check it out. Here and over, and the rook up and over. So every single black piece in this position has a future. I'm not so sure if it'll be great or not, but it has a future. All right. So that's one of the ways that can be played if you get caught with this center fork trick and white decides to mess up your pawns. Okay, let me go back. Here's knight g5. Okay, now how did we get there? Watch. e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, and knight f6, the two knights defense. We just looked at what happens if white plays knight c3. Well, one of the more popular moves in this position is the move knight g5, which kind of breaks a principle in chess, saying you shouldn't move the same piece twice. Okay. Does white have a reason for moving the same piece twice? They sure do. They're attacking your pawn down here on f7. You see how the connection between those two pieces? Let me put the lights on for you. Ah, there's the green again. Anyway, you see the bishop and knight? How it's attacking that pawn on f7? That's a real issue for black. So there's a couple of ways to handle it. I'm going to show you one here real quick. This is just so bizarre, and this will end part one of the video. I lied. There's actually going to be 3 videos. Can you imagine the move bishop c5 here? Completely ignoring the fact that the f-pawn is being attacked? Yeah, that's part one. And it's a playable move. If white's not careful and just goes for this without thinking, they could run into bishop takes pawn check, and black's best move white's best move is not to take the bishop. If they do, sometimes they can run into things like this. Knight takes e4, check. Say king g1. I mean, what do you do with your king? And then all of a sudden, black has mating threats. And, you know, I've seen a game at the scholastic level played with g3, actually even higher levels. Knight takes pawn, pawn takes knight, queen takes check. Isn't this bizarre? I mean, look around the board. This is like total chaos. Anyway, just an introduction, right, to the two knights defense. And here it is again. Bishop c4 from your main opening, knight f6 instead of this bishop to c5. And if you play this way, you have to be prepared for the move knight g5. Okay? And that's going to be part 2 of the video, and then we're going to get into even a part 3. Okay? Bless your hearts.